recent days, attention across the Sahel region and beyond has increasingly focused on a major security development that signals a new phase in regional cooperation among three military-led states of West Africa. In the city of Bamako, the capital of Mali, the Alliance of Sahel States, widely known as AES, formally launched a unified joint military force composed of 5,000 troops drawn from Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. The launch ceremony, held under tight security and significant diplomatic presence, was led by Mali's transitional president and head of the alliance, Assimi Goïta, and it marked one of the most ambitious collective security initiatives ever undertaken by the three Sahel nations since their withdrawal from ECOWAS. The creation of this 5,000-strong force is not an isolated decision, nor is it a symbolic gesture. It represents the culmination of months of planning, negotiation, and coordination among the governments of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, all of which have faced escalating security threats from armed groups claiming jihadist ideology. These groups have continued to exploit porous borders, vast ungoverned territories, and long-standing socio-economic grievances, creating an environment in which terrorism, banditry, and organized violence have become persistent challenges. For the AES leadership, the decision to establish a joint force is rooted in a shared assessment that previous security arrangements failed to adequately protect their populations. For years, these countries relied heavily on external military missions, regional coalitions, and international partners. Yet insecurity continued to expand. Entire communities were displaced, critical infrastructure was destroyed, and state authority weakened in many rural areas. The unified force is therefore presented by AES leaders as a sovereign response, designed and controlled by Sahel states themselves, without dependence on external command structures. The official launch in Bamako carried strong symbolism. Bamako is not only Mali's political center, but also a city that has become emblematic of resistance to foreign military dominance and external political pressure. Standing before senior military officers, defense ministers, diplomats, and international observers, President Assimi Goïta described the new force as a shield for the Sahel, emphasizing that its primary mission would be to neutralize any threat targeting the three member states, whether from armed extremist groups, cross-border criminal networks, or destabilizing external interference. According to AES officials, the joint force will operate with a unified command structure, coordinated intelligence sharing, and joint operational planning. Unlike previous multinational efforts in the region, which often suffered from bureaucratic delays and conflicting national priorities, this force is intended to be flexible, rapid, and fully integrated. Troops will be deployed based on real-time intelligence, and operations will focus on border regions where militant groups frequently move between countries to evade pressure. The origins of this initiative date back to January of this year, when Niger's defense minister publicly announced plans to form a 5,000-troop force to confront shared security challenges. At the time, the announcement was met with cautious optimism but also skepticism, as previous regional security plans had struggled to move from declaration to implementation. The official launch in Bamako therefore represents a critical milestone, signaling that the AES countries have moved beyond rhetoric and into action. During the ceremony, it was announced that General Daouda Traoré of Burkina Faso has been appointed as the commander of the unified force. His appointment reflects an effort to balance leadership among the three countries and reinforce the alliance's collective character. The permanent headquarters of the force will be based in Niamey, Niger's capital, a strategic decision given Niger's central geographic position within the Sahel and its long borders with both Mali and Burkina Faso. The presence of defense ministers from all three AES countries at the launch underscored the political commitment behind the military initiative. Also in attendance were ambassadors representing AES states and members of their diplomatic missions to international organizations, signaling that the alliance intends to communicate its security strategy clearly to the global community. This diplomatic engagement suggests that AES leaders are aware of the international scrutiny surrounding their actions and are eager to frame the joint force as a legitimate, defensive, and stabilizing measure. From a strategic perspective, the establishment of this force reflects a broader shift in how Sahel states perceive regional security. Rather than relying on externally designed frameworks, AES countries are asserting what they describe as strategic autonomy. This approach aligns with other recent initiatives, including the creation of joint economic institutions and shared political mechanisms, all aimed at reducing dependency and reinforcing internal solidarity. However, the challenges facing the unified force are substantial. The Sahel's terrain is vast and difficult, with deserts, forests, and remote borderlands that complicate logistics and surveillance. Armed groups operating in the region are highly mobile, deeply embedded in local networks, and often financed through illicit activities such as smuggling and illegal mining. Successfully countering these groups will require not only military strength, but also intelligence precision, local cooperation, and sustained political will. Another key question concerns funding and sustainability. Maintaining a 5,000-troop force requires consistent financial resources for salaries, equipment, training, intelligence, and logistics. AES leaders have not publicly detailed the long-term financing structure, but they have emphasized that member states are committed to pooling resources and prioritizing security spending. This raises important debates about economic trade-offs in countries already facing development challenges, inflationary pressures, and limited public finances. International reactions to the launch have been mixed. Some analysts view the AES joint force as a necessary and overdue step toward regional self-reliance, arguing that no external actor understands the Sahel's security realities better than the countries themselves. Others express concern that reduced cooperation with traditional partners could limit access to advanced intelligence, air support, and training, potentially constraining the force's effectiveness in the short term. Within the Sahel, public sentiment appears cautiously hopeful. Many citizens, weary of years of violence and displacement, see the unified force as a sign that their governments are taking ownership of security challenges. At the same time, expectations are high, and failure to deliver tangible improvements could deepen frustration and erode trust. For the AES leadership, success will ultimately be measured not by ceremonial launches or official statements, but by improved safety in villages, reopened schools, restored trade routes, and the return of displaced families. The launch of the AES joint force also carries broader geopolitical implications. By strengthening military cooperation among Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, the alliance is positioning itself as an alternative regional bloc with its own security doctrine. This development may influence future relations with neighboring states, regional organizations, and global powers, particularly as the Sahel remains a strategic zone for migration routes, energy interests, and counter-terrorism efforts. As operations begin, observers will closely monitor how the force coordinates across borders, how command decisions are made, and how civilian populations are protected during military actions. Human rights considerations, transparency, and accountability will be critical factors shaping both domestic legitimacy and international perception. AES leaders have stated that the force will operate in accordance with national laws and respect civilian lives, a promise that will be tested in complex operational environments. In the coming months, the real impact of this 5,000-troop force will gradually become clearer. If effective, it could redefine security cooperation in the Sahel and provide a model for regional self-defense driven by shared interests and collective responsibility. If it struggles, it will serve as a reminder of the immense difficulty of stabilizing one of the world's most challenging security landscapes. For now, the launch in Bamako stands as a powerful statement of intent. At a time when the Sahel faces persistent violence, political uncertainty, and international realignment, the AES Joint Force represents an attempt by three nations to chart their own path, confront shared threats together, and assert control over their collective future. Whether this ambition translates into lasting security will depend on execution, unity, and the ability to adapt to a rapidly evolving battlefield in the heart of West Africa.